URC Power Rankings, folks, for round number 16. It's kind of unfortunate timing that the Champions Cup semi-finals are this weekend. I'm chuffed that we're going to see a couple of cracking games, Toulouse and Bordeaux. Northampton, big task up against Leinster, but the URC's got some real tasty fixtures coming for the final 2 rounds to see how things play out. We'll need to wait an extra week to see how that goes. But let's do the Power Rankings after 16 rounds to see who kind of is up and down in the kind of form guide that is the Power Rankings, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Who's too high, who's too low. Dragons are 16th. I don't need to say much about that. Their record's bad. 1 win this season, another loss. You didn't expect anyone else in 16th. Connacht, though, in 15th, has got to be an all-time low. Their record is genuinely, I think, the second worst in the URC. Although they're not in 15th on the table. On the table, they're 14th. Above Zebre. But on the Power Rankings, I've got Zebre above them. Not by much. Zebre's here. Zebre's in 14th. They drew at the weekend, which is better than losing. But, 5 wins, 11 losses, 10 losses, and a draw. So, not much between them, which is not a great state of affairs for Connacht, because traditionally, since I've been following the URC, they're kind of one of the challenger sides for those maybe 7th or 8th spot. Zebra has always been down here, but they're actually having kind of a career season. Albeit they are 15th on the table, but yeah, they've actually had a relatively good season for them and playing some fun rugby. The Lions are up a couple of spots with their win over Connacht. I still kind of wish they'd managed to get a bonus point for how things are going with them and their playoff chase. I still think it's going to be a little bit too far from the catch-up. There's still 2 home games to come. They beat Connacht pretty comfortably, 3 tries to 1, penalties from Cade Voliter. They still chasing, but yeah, up 2 spots in the Power Rankings. So hopefully this sparks a couple of good performances in their final 2 weeks. Ulster in 12th on the Power Rankings. How does that match up with their actual spot? That's the same as their log position. So again, not a great season from them. And this game against the Sharks, which they lost, which sees them drop 2 spots on the Power Rankings, was brutal because they were 19-0 up. Yeah, it's not often you lose from a 19-0 lead while you're at home, but it happened. So that's a kind of bit of extra salt in the wound, and does really put a big block in the way of their playoff campaign. But there's a bunch of teams in that kind of middle ground who are still chasing those final couple of playoff spots. Edinburgh drew with Zebre, which is not great. One of the people mentioned in the comments the other day that their injury toll is horrendous. Obviously not going to help, but 4 points against Zebre would have been preferable rather than the 2. So their form was not fantastic, but they've not moved on the Power Rankings. They are stable. Same as they were last week, and I think that matches their spot on the table as well. No, they're in 10th on the table, so I've got them 1 spot worse. Munster have dropped on the Power Rankings into 10th, which is also not that different from their position on the table, which I think they're 9th. It's been up and down for Munster. I'm kind of empathising with Munster as a Blues fan here in Super Rugby, because we won Super Rugby last year, and this year it's been a slog. And Munster won the URC a couple of years ago. It's been a real mixed bag. You lost your coach at the start of the season. There's been a few highs. Losing to Cardiff away is probably going to be a bit of a low in terms of their playoff push as well, but you can't write Munster off. But they've still got a couple of big rounds to see if they can clinch a playoff berth to make the final kind of couple of rounds interesting. And then 9th, they got the Ospreys, who are up 3 spots, which seems like too much for beating the Dragons, although they did give the Dragons a proper walloping. What was the score? 57-24? Yeah, they flogged them, but it's the Dragons. So I didn't give them that much credit for that. But you look at the sides around them on the Power Rankings, like Munster lost, Edinburgh drew, Ulster lost, so it's also kind of about other sides not really doing that much this week, which also sees the Ospreys kind of benefit. The Ospreys are in 11th on the table, so another one of those sides that's still in the chasing pack. Benetton, I've got them in the same spot on the Power Rankings as they are on the actual table, from the highs of last week's first win in South Africa to the lows of getting well beaten by the Stormers. Benetton have still got a positive record this season, 8 wins, 7 losses and a draw. So that's kind of fitting for a side which is in the top 8. You like to think that the sides with the winning records are going to be the ones in those positions, but yeah, that's a bit of a soul-destroying loss because it wasn't even competitive. Like the Stormers, I feel like are a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team in that they can look brilliant, but they can also concede some points. But Benetton only managed 5 and conceded, as I said, a real bundle. Cardiff, a little bit of a surprise package. Final home game of the season for them. They got that win over Munster. And I'm not even doing them credit on the power rankings as the table. They're even higher on the table than 7th. But got them in 7th, which is up 2 spots. They are in the playoffs and really just, I don't know if a couple of points, maybe a couple of losing bonus points or whatever away in South Africa will be enough. But if they can just, I don't know, man, score some tries, losing bonus points, sneak a win or whatever, it'd be great to see one of the Welsh sides make the 8 this year. Although, as I said, it is going to be challenging. I've got the Scarlets in 6th, which is up how many spots? 2. Up 2 spots with a win over Leinster. I know it wasn't Leinster's best team, but not many teams have managed to beat Leinster this year. So far, it's just the Scarlets and the Bulls. So a massive one for the Scarlets guys in their push for the playoffs. They're also having a much better year than last year. What's the Scarlets record? 8-7-1 as well. So also another side with a positive record. So for all the bad news about Welsh rugby, like I think last year was worse in terms of the team's results. We'll see. Stormers, I still feel like could be a real dark horse going into the playoffs because I feel like on their day the Stormers can probably knock off anybody. But also I feel like the Stormers could probably lose to anybody. Yeah, they're a bit unpredictable. Their record is 8-7-1, which is, as I said, a pretty common record this year. A lot of teams have kind of around that 50-50 area. There's been a few draws in the URC, so they looked impressive against Benetton. Shutting down Sasha, you feel like is going to be one of the keys, if you can, to them getting the win. But the Stormers are up 1 on the power rankings. Top 4, Glasgow have dropped on the power rankings down to 4th. They kind of ground out a win a fortnight ago, and then they've lost at home to the Bulls, which is no disgrace to lose to the Bulls, because the Bulls are right up there in the URC this year. But yeah, recent form is maybe not that great, hence it's reflected in the power rankings. So down 1 spot, 2 spots behind their position on the table, because they are still in 2nd on the table. They've been passed by the Sharks, who are up 1 spot. The Sharks I'm still totally not convinced by, but maybe I just need to pack my expectations at the door and just look at the Sharks' results, because the Sharks are 11 wins and 5 losses, which I think for most of the teams, people will be saying, geez, they're having a good year. But somehow, a lot of us are still looking at the Sharks and wondering what's going on. But 11 and 5. 4th on the table, 3rd on the power rankings. Yeah, maybe John Plumtree's getting it right. We will see. Bulls are 2nd on the power rankings. They've gotten their win over the Glasgow boys, which is a battle of 2nd against 3rd. They came out on top. Big defensive shift from them. Same as they were in the power rankings a week ago. Leinster still at the top with a kind of narrowing lead, because the Bulls' recent form is genuinely very good. So that is the power rankings after 16 rounds of URC action. Like I said, I am saddened by the fact that I have to wait another week to see how things play out for this, battle for these kind of middle-of-the-table spots with so many teams in contention. But you guys let us know your thoughts on the power rankings. Who are your form sides? Can the Sharks or the Stormers click? Do you think this is Leinster's year? The Bulls, are they the absolute form team in the URC right now? How many Welsh sides make the 8, if any? You guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.